did not begin. You know, it was something that he
The rule. What do you mean the rules didn't begin? What do you mean?
like, meaning, you know, when I initially met him, I would meet him in whatever I wanted to wear, whether that be jeans, whether that be, you know, a blouse, whatever. And then, you know, slowly but surely, you know, he started to get into, okay, you can only wear sweats. Okay, you have to knock any and every single time you come out of this room. Okay, you need to delete every single person in your phone except for my 4 phone numbers. Okay, you have to stop doing this. Okay, you can't do this anymore. If you don't listen, then we're going to get into, you know, beatings and chastising, and, you know, this is to help you. This
and
is
it did get into beatings.
It did. Yeah, it did. And, you know, it was always, you know, this is to better you. You know, it was.
Did you believe that at the time?
No, because I had never, you know, come from an abusive household or anything like that. And so even, you know, still to this day, I'm shocked that I would allow a man to put his hands on me, because, you know, it's just not something that I had, you know, grown up experiencing. So I didn't know how to get out of something like that even more, because I had never
experienced
I had never experienced it.
I am surprised.
I'm looking at the interviews that the survivors are having now. Now that the trial has the first trial has been initiated and had, I'm looking at the survivors' response to that. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at the verbiage that's used. I'm looking at, you know, the puns that's used. So I'm looking at the overall scope of things. Now I think everybody's kind of like, you know, they either support R. Kelly to the death, or they feel like, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't a fair trial, or some people feel like, hey, he got what he deserved. This is not to talk about his guilt or innocence on this live. This is to talk about the aftermath of, do you feel like the survivors lied or not? Now, I watched the Gayle King and the Ariel, I believe Azrael or whatever her name is. I watched that interview. I watched a couple other ones, but that interview stood out the most, because here's my thought process, right? After he's convicted, smoke him. After R. Kelly is convicted, you know, hey, we're going to throw away the key. We're going to push him to Chicago, and then we're going to now, you know, go through the trial again for other charges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now you have these survivors coming out saying that, you know, the first time that we went live, the first time we did the interview with Gayle King, we lied. But we were convinced, most of us. So now that the second time they do the interview, it's well, we lied that time. Now we're telling the truth. And I guess my thought process is, how do you know what's the truth and what's the lie? Salute. How do you know at this particular time what's the truth and what's the lie? Because to me, when we first saw you in front of the camera, you convinced us that you was not being held against your will, that your parents did X, Y, and Z, like you told, you know, everybody on a national stage. And my thought process is, I don't believe that Gayle King came to no hotel room to do no interview with R. Kelly, and that wasn't the moment to spring you. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, hey, we being held. I mean, at that particular time on a live network doing an interview, you could have easily said, hey, this man is holding me against my will, or gave her a wink or some type of inclination that we need help. But that didn't happen. So now we go back and we say, well, we were lying then, but we're telling the truth now. And it's just like, I don't know, something just don't sit right in my spirit, because it was like, it was almost like we waited deliberately until after the verdict to do another interview to say we lied. I'm looking at the timing of it, and I'm just saying, like, all of this seems kind of crazy to me or whatever. Like, there was a lot of people, based on the the video that I did, kind of breaking down certain things, you know, instead of saying surviving R. Kelly, it was more like understanding the situation and the narrative. And we kind of broke it down to the extent of, you know, the trial was kind of wishy-washy, and, you know, racketeering, and, you know, a lot of these things seem crazy, whatever. And I kind of proposed a question to the audience, both to the R. Kelly sympathizers and to the people that, you know, they sympathize with the victims more. And then for the people that was right in the middle, Arzon, I don't know how to say that, y'all. But I'm kind of still in the middle. And the reason why I feel like I'm still in the middle, because I feel like, you know, first of all, I don't feel like it was a fair trial. I believe that the whole surviving R. Kelly thing, to me, that should have never came out before the trial, before he was found guilty. But I'm looking at the response to him being convicted and what the victims are now, the survivors are now saying after the fact. Well, we lied then, but we're telling the truth now. Just recently, the Washington Post, I'll share the link in my community tab. They did a whole synopsis about all of the survivors getting together after the conviction of R. Kelly, and basically said, you know, now we need to stop worrying about R. Kelly and we need to start focusing on the victims and supporting them. So a lot of them are trying to get book deals. A lot of them are, I think it's 1 or 2 of them that's going to be appearing in a couple movies. It's just interesting to me. It's just interesting because I feel like when you listen to her speak about, you know, the abuse and you know, him putting his hands on her and she don't know why it happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My thought process is, what really stopped her from contacting her family? If you're out and allowed to go shopping and you're allowed to go do X, Y, and Z, at any point in time, your family could have been contacted. I'm just curious, y'all. Like, what really stopped the younger victims from contacting their family members? Like, I have no idea why the older women were kind of going, like, some of them were going back and forth, like leaving and then coming back. So my thing about it, if a man is locking you in the room and making you defecate on yourself and doing all of these crazy actions towards you, what would make you go back? And then what message does that send other women, that if you are a celebrity, you have money and you have power, then, you know, anything goes? Ms. Claiborne says, when you lie and pretend to be a victim, you discredit the real victims. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm, because I don't know if she's lying, but my thought process is, when you told us the story the first time, you was with Gayle King inside a hotel room with a whole camera crew. So my thought process is, you got a camera right here. He ain't about to, well, he kind of acted a fool, but he ain't about to like snatch you and drag you up out of there. So this would be the perfect time to tell the world, hey, I need help. He's doing X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. I mean, what could he do? So then to go back with him, and then once he gets convicted, now I'm going to tell the truth. Well, let me ask you a question. Does R. Kelly not have the same pull inside of prison that he did outside of prison? Like, whatever made you fear him outside the prison, why now are you not afraid? So my thought process is like a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to figure out the timing of all this. Just seems a bit crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I know everybody kind of will handle the situation differently or whatever. I wouldn't even speak about it again. Like, I wouldn't even, once I testified and I gave my statement, that would be the end of it or whatever case may be. But I understand that, you know, people are going to capitalize on the situation. You know, a lot of people capitalize on victimhood. A lot of people capitalize. But I'm going to be honest with you. If this boiled down to a situation that we don't care how we lock him up, we just want him locked up, then that's wrong. I would rather for us to have a clear understanding of exactly what he did, exactly how he violated these women, exactly what he did. Now, if you guys are into some kinky stuff or some freaky stuff and things get out of hand, got it, or whatever case may be. But if he forced himself on you, he forced you to stay, I think that's the real conversation. I don't think it's about racketeering. I don't think it's about violating no man laws. I think that for some reason, we as citizens, we as the people, we never really got a full, clear understanding of exactly what he did wrong. Like, we put this, we heard the charges, but for some reason I'm sitting back because, again, we're not getting firsthand knowledge. Somebody had asked me in my comments, did I get a chance to read the transcript? Shout out to Spitting Fire. You guys don't know who she is. She is a R.Kelly sympathizer, and she's definitely been proactive in reporting the news. Shout out to the plainest Jane. She's also been reporting the news or whatever case may be. Not necessarily R.Kelly sympathizer, but just as a journalist and reporting. So I kind of got different two different perspectives, so that way I can kind of promote my own perspective. Because again, I think as an artist, I think a lot of us appreciates R.Kelly music. A lot as an artist, we appreciate that. Now, when we talk about the character of the man, which is in question, not the music, but the character of the man, I think that if you're going to say that a man or a woman of any race, nationality, color, or creed did something wrong, you should be able to prove it. And I don't see the full out abuse. Like, I don't see the full out, like, I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, did he have you chained to the door? Because my thought process is, you guys were out shopping. That's a fact. You said it. Like, we go out shopping, he gives us a card, he tells us, when to come back, etc., etc., etc. So my thought process is, why not take this opportunity to leave? Why not take this opportunity to run? And it's like, to me, at no point in time was there a sense of, I am leaving to get help. And you're old enough to know when you're in a dangerous situation. Hell, my youngest daughter knows when she's in a dangerous situation. So there's a lot to this case. There's a lot to it. I feel like the OJ trial, I feel like all of these other major trials, it was like media was allowed and this was allowed and this was allowed. But for some reason, the R. Kelly thing was very secretive. Like, you can read the transcripts, or we'll show you a couple clips of what happened or what was said inside the courtroom. But for some reason, it was very secret. Like, I've never seen anyone release a documentary promoting a person's guilt before they actually seen their day in court. I never seen that before. And that worries me, because is this the new Me Too strategy? Is this the new cancel culture strategy? Is this the new, oh, this is how we get people strategy? Because what stops that from being you? What stops that from being you? When you promote that you're guilty way before the court date and allow the juries, the jurors and the judge and the prosecutor to say, okay, well, this is it for us. Now, a lot of people say, there was a lot of evidence presented, sex tapes, and, people testified, and I get all of that or whatever. But my whole thought process was, if you're a grown woman, okay, and I'm going to say this respectfully, if you're a grown woman and you're allowing a man to hold you against your will, now this is my thought process. And this is what I mean by hold you against your will. If he's physically tied you down, if he's physically have locks on the doors, he physically have guard dogs or guns, a shotgun, what was that movie, Black Snake Moan? If he's tying you to the bedpost and say, well, here go some hot dogs, some frozen hot dogs, and a couple warm milk. If he's doing stuff like that, to me, I say, okay, well, obviously he was holding her against her will. But if that's not the case, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And for those that have took psychology, those that have been victims or whatever case to be, this is not to further victimize you. This is I guess the level of trying to provide a level of understanding. You know, we do know, regardless, that, you know what I'm saying, whoever you're looking at, if R. Kelly, the physical abuse of women, that's what, that he wasn't charged for that. See what I'm saying? The physical abuse of women. So I'm kind of like, what I missed? Like, I'm on the fence right now. Like, what did I miss? And then why would you as a victim now come out and say, oh, well, I lied before, but I'm telling the truth now? Well, anybody with common sense would be like, well, we believed you before. You were hyped up, you cried, you pointed, you were there in the moment. Salute, salute. So I don't know, how do you guys feel about this situation or whatever case may be? Again, you know, if you have been a victim of any type of violence against you, you know, no one can tell you when to get over it, and no one can tell you how to deal with it. Okay. King Twin said, "No, bruh. No, you must have lost your mind. Tough love don't make me come through this phone to go knick-knack paddywhack." That's on Mary Had a Little Lamb. Nah, I'm not really discussing if he's guilty or not, man. You know, I'm really kind of looking at the situation in regards to saying, how, if we believe the survivors or the victims the first time, and they're totally changing their story now, what are we to believe? Do we believe you the first time, or do we believe you the second time? Like, which story do we believe? Because now, guess what? You can literally say anything. You can say anything. You can say this man, after he's been found guilty of racketeering, right? You can now say, oh, well, he did this and this and this. He was sleeping with dogs. You know, he was sleeping with monkeys. Like, he made me have sex with a horse. Like, you can say anything, and who's to combat that? Now, I'm not calling her a liar. I'm just saying that I wouldn't have came out again and said, well, I was lying before. I don't know if I would have did that. Go to Pieces of the Puzzles channel. She was one of the few who had been at the trial. You'll be stunned. Okay. All right. I have to check that out. I wonder, can I screenshot this? I did. I got it. If he was holding our rant against her will in the first interview, she could have said, "Gayle, please help me." Yes, smoke them. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'm telling you, it's about being fair and impartial, right? And I said this before, if R. Kelly victimized these women and abused these women, then he deserved to be held accountable for victimizing and abusing these women. However, don't trump up a lot of other charges because you can't get him on this charge and say, okay, now we got justice. No, that's not justice. That's not justice. Since that's not justice, because what you're doing is you're saying that we can take a social media or a mainstream media documentary and use this to make anybody we want guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, that means they can make you guilty. They can make you guilty. And you don't, well, I don't know you, but we don't know if you have as much. First of all, can you afford an attorney? Can you afford to go the distance in the courtroom? So it might not even take you that length of time to be found guilty. Forget 9 hours, 9 minutes. Yeah, they're guilty. All right, what we doing for lunch? Shoney's? Nah, we went to Shoney's. Steak in it? No. Outback. You like Outback? I don't really like Outback too much. Where you want to go? Red Lobster? Man, nobody go to Red Lobster no more. Okay, where we want to eat at? Because I'm hungry now. My stomach growling. It took us 9 minutes to find this person guilty. This average at best person. Gayle King even told that lady she looked good, and she's on Instagram looking a whole different kind of good. I'm just I'm curious to see what Spitting Fire has to say about this, the plaintiff Jane has to say about this, because my thought process is, you've already told your story. You told your story for the first time to Gayle King, and you said he's not holding us against our will, etc., 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 right? Then, of course, we got the court case, boom, more information comes out. Then we go back as a victim, as a survivor, and we do another interview to say, oh yeah, I was lying about X, Y, and Z. I don't know if I would have encouraged my kid to do that. I don't know if, as a publicist, I would have encouraged you to do that. Now, as a money move, as a publicity stunt, I would have encouraged you to do it. But I don't see healing coming from that. Again, I'm not in her body. I don't know what she, I wasn't there, but I don't see healing coming from that. I see exploiting the situation coming from that. See what I'm saying? Because if you wasn't lying the first time, then there's no need to say something else. But if you was lying the first time, then now you're saying something else. Now I have to question, well, which one is true? Does her saying she's telling the truth now because he's guilty, does that automatically make us say that she's telling the truth, or what? I just feel like people are getting played for dummies. Exploration all over again if you're truly a victim. I believe that. I believe that. Like, even with Gayle King, I'm like, well, why would you want to do can you imagine Gayle King getting a call talking about, oh, I want to come back on there and tell everybody I lied the first time, but I'm about to tell the truth this time. Now, I get it. We got big hearts. We want to help people. We want to make sure that victims have voices. We don't want them to feel isolated. We want them to be able to tell their story. But my thought process is, I see a lot of people, especially on social media, exploit people, exploit victims. And I'll be scratching my head because no one in the comment section be saying, you're exploiting this person. You're exploiting them for views and likes and shares and donations. And then after the live is off, they never hear from you again. You could care less about their situation. And then you have the type of audience that don't even appreciate to listen. They joking and disrespecting each other all in the comments. So I don't know. I see a lot of that, man. I see a lot of exploitation when it comes to victims or whatever. And the victims, I don't know if they're so happy someone wants to hear their story, or they need a support system. I mean, it's a lot of different reasons, but the issue is that, people take advantage of people saying, oh yeah, come tell your story. So Gayle King asking her to tell her story, or allowing her to tell her story, what does that do for the victim, you think? I'm telling on him. Yes, I'm telling. Well, he's already locked up. I mean, this is just my thought process. I could be wrong. He's already locked up. He's already been found guilty. Maybe not for exactly what he did to you, which me personally, I feel like if you're going to put me on trial, then I should be on trial for what I did, not what you made up. And I feel like it was a lot of made up stuff to get a guilty verdict because you didn't have enough evidence to promote what these women were saying. So the public made him guilty from the surviving R.Kelly thing, and then the courtroom made him guilty from racketeering and other trumped up charges. So all around, did he get the defense that he deserved? That's the real question. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent. That's not what I'm talking about. Did he get the defense that he deserved? It says R.Kelly is guilty. However, the way some of these women are moving is not helping and will have an effect later in life. They really need a long-term counseling and go heal away from the public. Man, I got some smart people over here. That's just my thoughts. That is just my thoughts. Go heal. Go heal. You want to be in the spotlight. You're kind of showcasing the reason why you was with R. Kelly. Because you want to be in the spotlight. You want people to know your name. You want people to see you. That's the way it's coming across. And I'm just going to be, if I'm thinking like this, or and if it looks crazy to me, and I haven't weighed left or right on whether I feel like he's totally guilty or totally innocent. I just know that I'm not stupid, that I've never seen a documentary saying that someone was guilty before they actually went to court. I've never seen that. Never seen that. But a lot of people are saying, you know what, regardless, you know, I love him as I love him so much as an artist, it don't matter. Now I have an issue with that as well. I have an issue with that as well. Because I had made the statement, you know, free R. Kelly, and then I asked, free him to do what? And then, of course, there was a lot of people in the comments, you know, the diehard R. Kelly sympathizers were like, free him so he can walk around, free him so he can go to the store, free him so he can sit in the car and do videos like your ass. Shady. That was shady. But when I said free him to do what, my thought process is, do you believe that everything that's been said in the surviving R. Kelly documentary, and in the courtroom, and with the little conspiracy surrounding Aaliyah, do you believe that all of that, he's not guilty of anything? Like, imagine us being involved in something or whatever case to be, and the entire thing 100% is a lie. It's a possibility. It's a strong possibility. It's a strong possibility. But the thought process is, ladies and gentlemen, is that, you know, it is very hard to believe that, especially if R. Kelly was in the video with Sparkle's young cousin, and of course they got him at McDonald's and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People have other artists that have nothing to do with the trial. Yeah, he was in the studio with young girls, so I left, or I stopped working with him, or X, Y, and Z. And how come there's no conversation about Jay-Z? Because Jay-Z was messing with Aaliyah too. I noticed that there's no conversation. Like, the whole focus was R. Kelly. Salute to the chat room. Salute to the chat room. Let me see what y'all talking about. The civil rights passed. Passed the courtrooms. Okay. All right. If anybody lied on the oath, they will be charged with perjury. You know what's so funny is that, and that's why I'm saying, like, with these victims or whatever, because were these interviews used to also make, because you got to think about the Ariel or Azrael. I'm sorry, I'm messing up. I know I'm crucifying her name right now, but Azrael, that's her name, Azrael and the other female. Were these interviews used to dictate and to outline the state of mind of these so-called victims or survivors, and also the state of mind of R. Kelly? Because you got to think, the one way he had the meltdown,
Why is it you agreed to do it? Why are you sitting down with us today?
I'm very tired of all of the lies. I've been hearing things, and and seeing things on the blogs, and I'm just tired.
What are the lies that you're hearing that disturb you most?
Oh my God, all of them. That little girl was trapped in the basement. Helicopters over my house, trying to rescue someone that doesn't need rescuing because they're not in my house. Handcuffing people, starving people. I have a harem, what you call it here.
Listen to me, folks. Listen to me. If what he's stating right now, that this is what I heard, this is what I'm allegedly guilty of, then that's what the trial should have been about. That's what the evidence should have been presented for. You know what I'm saying? So it's difficult to say, okay, well, the surviving R. Kelly documentary, was it not different from the trial? I just want to ask y'all your question. I just want to ask y'all a question. Was the surviving, to me, the R. Kelly, surviving R. Kelly documentary was different from the trial, but still painted a bad light for, so when you go into the trial, you automatically have this target on your back. It does not matter if it was different. Okay, well, hold on, player. Hold on, Hitcherson. Hold on now, player. Hold on, player. Let's talk about this. I feel a little aggression in your Texas. I believe when you set the stage, here's the thing. If I set the stage, right? because it should be beyond believable doubt. So if I set the premise for you to be guilty, if I set the stage for you to be guilty, so the surviving documentary of R. Kelly, it would have set the stage for anyone, regardless of who you are, for him to be guilty. So now I take that premise and now I go into a courtroom and now I use these other charges that I know are going to probably be more severe. Will that not help with a guilty plea? Will that not help persuade the audience? Because it definitely persuaded a whole lot of people that were viewing that's not diehard advocates or sympathizers of R. Kelly. It definitely, if you've ever had someone that got abused, if you've been abused, if you are a diehard supporter of women and children, and you say, hey, I don't care what he did, zero tolerance, off with his head. Come on, Hutchinson, come on back up in here. Let's have this conversation, brother. He didn't get charged for the stories that involve the crimes from the documentary. And this is what I'm saying. Did the documentary help set the stage to set him up for the courtroom? He didn't just walk into the courtroom and say, yeah, I'm here, y'all. All right, what y'all got for me? When he went into the courtroom, mass media, mass people on social media were already saying that he was guilty. How do you know that those people that were on the jury were not some of those people? How do you know that? Says, all I'm saying is you need to read the transcripts. Free R. Kelly is all I'm yelling. Free Tina. Tina, I got somebody that read the transcript, plain as Jane, spitting fire. They all had the transcripts. I sat down, I listened to it. I went back, I reviewed some things or whatever case may be. So again, this is not to promote innocence or guilt. This is to say, well, from a bystander, because I'm a bystander, right? I don't know him personally. I knew him as an artist. So everything that was presented it wasn't anything presented to him as an artist except for the verbiage of his music, like the tone and the feel of his music, trying to orchestrate that to saying, oh, well, this was for a younger crowd, or this was for a young girl, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get it, and I understand that part. But my thought process is, how many people actually get a documentary promoted before their court date? The jury went home for the weekend, even though they were sequestered, came back Monday morning. The feds found out. I'm just saying, man, if we're going to do this fair and impartial, we're going to have a tough conversation. We got to look at everything. And I'm looking at everything. I don't believe that R. Kelly had a fair trial, but I do believe that if anything that allegedly was true in reference to the abuse of those women, then he should have been held responsible. That's what I believe. But everybody should believe that. Everybody should believe that if anything was true about the abuse allegations towards those women, then he should have been held accountable. How many people agree with that? Or y'all just like, nope, I love his music. Bump and grind, a woman's worth, I believe I can fly. Tina, we're not saying he wasn't set up. What we're saying is, I'm trying to get everybody on the same accord right now. If any of the allegations was true about those women, then he should be held responsible. Can we agree to that? Can we agree to that? If any of the allegations that were true about those women, then he should be held responsible. I think everybody can agree to that. Now, the issue is, a lot of people see it as not a fair trial, and then a lot of people see it as spitting fire. No, we can't agree. Come on, spit. Look, listen. If any of the allegations was true against anybody, I don't care if you're a man, you're a woman, a hermaphrodite, whatever the case may be, if any of the allegations are true of abuse, then you should be held responsible. That across the board, I think people can agree with. You know I got to come back. I know you got to come back. Salute the spitting fire. Salute the spitting fire. My thought process is this, y'all. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that feel like R. Kelly got railroaded. There's a lot of people that feel like, you know, the victims got justice or whatever case be. I'm curious to hear if the victims feel like they got justice. Grown folks take responsibility. I totally agree. I totally agree. I'm curious to hear if the victims or the survivors of this situation feel like they got justice, or do they seek justice by writing a book, by going on television, by appearing in shows, by continuing to do interviews? Because somebody said it best, shouldn't they be wanting to heal? And it says they were all adults. They are all writing books. I didn't know they all were writing books. I knew a couple people writing books, and I knew a couple people had some interviews lined up or whatever, which is crazy to me, Spitting, because I feel like what's being said now kind of it's more alarming, because my thought process is, I don't know if you was lying during the first Gayle interview or you're lying now. So anybody that's looking at the situation like, okay, when first you said, hey, he was good to go, you know, my parents full of, you know, shit, etc., because I really don't know no parents that would let their child just go off like that and not like fight to get them back. And I so that's why I'm spitting fire. I'm kind of on the fence, because I don't know no, listen, this ain't to sound racial or whatever, but I don't know no black parents that'll be like, ah, they good, they with R.Kelly. If you feel like your daughter is being abused, then why not go get your daughter? You're telling me that R.Kelly, see, this is the thing that kills me. You're trying to like act like R.Kelly is bigger than the local police department, the federal government. Like, did he have an army? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, why couldn't you go into this hotel room or this house or this mansion and go get your kid? Why wait 2 years? Can you imagine how long 2 years is? Like, I spent 18 months in Afghanistan, y'all. I missed holidays, funerals, birthdays, you know, births, all types of stuff. Like, and I was just like, man, shit, I wish I could just go back, you know what I'm saying, and attend this and attend this. Can you imagine 2 years not knowing if your child is okay? Tina says his sex life was put on trial, which was his personal business. I agree. No, I agree. I totally agree. And that's why I said, if you're going to say the man was a deviant and he did this, this, and this, and this, then all of the deviant shit should be put on trial. Don't put other charges on him and say, well, he was a deviant, right? But we're going to put these charges. No, those not deviant charges. That's something else. That's something else you're trying to get him on. But it's like, okay, well, shit, prove the deviant shit. Because the whole R.Kelly, surviving R.Kelly, that was about being a deviant. That's about being abusive and holding women against their will. Spitting Fire says, Spitting Fire, y'all. It says they all testified they weren't hostages. I want y'all to think about this. So if they wasn't hostages, what's the reason? Okay, what's the reason for the surviving R.Kelly? What's the reason for it to come out prior to his court date, where he's actually held responsible? And that's the issue. When you say somebody's done something to you, right, and you want to use this narrative of guilty before justice is served, because that's the way it came across. And I feel like anybody who looked at this situation, regardless if you know somebody that's been abused or you've been abused, anybody that looked at this situation has to be scratching their head like, have you ever seen a documentary come out before a person's trial and the documentary promoted the person being guilty? If I could be a fly on the wall to hear those the jurors speak about this situation. Ratings, the producer said they didn't know the law was going to input themselves. You know what? Of course, it was about ratings. We just talked about the whole social media and Mark Zuckerberg thing of them promoting negativity or whatever it can be. But here's my thought process, y'all. Because we talk about our community, we talk about black men, black women, we talk about, you know, people in general and citizens. Why do we stand for that? Why was there no like storm the Capitol type moments or whatever? Like, no, you can't hold no trial like this. Bro, there are several documentaries that have preceded trials. You know what? Let me think about it. There was nothing for OJ. There was nothing for Bill Cosby. There was nothing for George Floyd. What documentaries proceeded before trial that you're talking about? I'm curious. This is a teaching moment, so feel free to teach me publicly, because I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? I'll swallow my pride and I get it. But the fact of the matter is, I've never seen someone accused of trapping females and starving them and being a sexual deviant having a full documentary, like 6 series, and then coming and then doing a what's the name besides Harvey Weinstein? I don't know none either. I don't know. I mean, but he can teach us real quick. Salute to you. I'm going to speak. I'm gonna speak about the Facebook situation. I'm gonna pull up Spitfire. I'm actually about to go eat myself, so I'm gonna pull up though. I'm gonna pull up and check you out. But I'm waiting for the gentleman to tell me, because he was saying salute to everybody in the chat room. Hold on, I wanted to do something real quick. Where you at, Spittin'? There were about 2 documentaries. On who? Epstein. Disposition and books. I don't think, okay. I'm not trying to counter what you're telling me, right? What I'm saying is that, first of all, that has to be a violation of your rights. That's one. And then 2, that's not a common practice. So I had no idea that when we're watching Surviving R.Kelly, that, well, he's going to be going to court. I would think that if they were going to take him to court, they would have took him to court when Aaliyah was alive. They would have took him to court. Well, he actually did go to court. What am I talking about? He actually did go to court. But I was thinking that's it. I wasn't thinking there was going to be something else behind that. So I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that's not a common practice to have a documentary before a major trial, if that's the case. And if that's what they were pushing for, then I would have did my best to try to take the documentary down. Joel says the money ran out and the women turned on him. Could be. Could be. I don't think they're going to have issues with money now, though. But listen, let me say this real quick before I get out here. I appreciate all you guys' point of view. Everybody has a different perspective based on, you know, their values, standards, and morals, the things that they've experienced in life. Not only the common sense factor, but also education. So I get everybody, in regardless of where they're coming from. Spittin', let me do something for you real quick. Hold on. I had to add you as a moderator real quick. So I get it, man. I get it. I'm not just talking about women victims. I'm talking about docs proceeding, trials across the variety of criminal cases. I think it's not a common practice. It's a possibility. I've never seen a major trial that I was following have a documentary before it in this manner, in this instance. So I got you. I hear you. But again, whether you are a R. Kelly sympathizer and you are a diehard fan, whether you're still on the fence, or whether you believe, you know what I'm saying, he may be guilty but not guilty of what he was charged for. Whatever your synopsis is, or whatever case may be, salute to your perspective. I just feel like, again, I don't feel like the trial was fair. I don't believe that the documentary should have been released before he was found guilty. But I do believe that if anything in that trial, those allegations, if anything was true, then as a man, you should be held responsible, whatever. So that's just my belief, or whatever case may be. Again, with the victims, I do believe that there is some falsehood in some of the things that's being said. It's just something off about it, or whatever. But I would love to hear Spittin' Fire's perspective, plain as Jane, and anybody else that has a channel that's covering this story. Feel free to tag me in it so that way I can kind of check it out, or whatever case to be. But again, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to be accused of something, have a whole documentary, and then have to go to court and fight for their life. Like, I don't know nobody that agrees with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nobody that agrees with that. You see what I'm saying? But I do believe that there has been a lot of sick things happening with younger children, both males and females, that we as adults, we need to make sure that we hold people accountable for. So again, if there's anything that you see within your power, within your scope, make sure that you speak out and don't be silent. If you were ever a victim or whatever, I'm sure that, you know, it is easy sometimes to put yourself in other people's shoes because you yourself has been a victim. So, but you still have to look at the facts. You still have to look at the facts, and let's acknowledge the fact that, you know what I'm saying, if anybody has ever been a victim, we can't tell them when to get over it. We can't tell them how to deal with it or whatever case may be, but we also can encourage them to heal. So I'm hoping that those victims or survivors heal. I'm hoping that R.Kelly gets the support that he needs, whether mentally, and I'm hoping that he gets a fair trial. I'm hoping that you get a fair trial, because I believe that R.Kelly could be your brother, your uncle, your son, your nephew, or whatever case may be. And I'm sure that you wouldn't want your family member, your friend, your co-worker to get an unfair trial. Put him on trial for what he's accused of. Either you got the evidence for it or you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Love. I'm Mario J. Until next time, adult up. Peace. I appreciate y'all. Spitting. I'm going to pull up.